What's up, future shred lords? Welcome back. Death to the fingers. I'm not gonna lie, my body's sore today because I did some Google mappage, figured out the distance of my little morning walk. Wow, it's like 7K. I did a little extension, and it's brutal, and it's kicking my ass. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually sore and feeling the pain, and I'm just like, I'm done for today. But there's this interesting video, or at least I got thinking about it. It's like a nexus there between some stuff I saw on social media, people talking about this stuff, and me thinking about it. And then I watched this documentary about Randy Rhoads. Like, are you a slave to your influences? And that's the thing, is just like, I feel like this, I don't want to, make it seem like I'm speaking negatively about anybody, really. You know what I mean, when it comes to like the music world. But we're taking this whole nostalgia thing to an extreme, and so at some point in time you have to be like, well, and really it was just when I was watching this documentary on Randy, and it's his whole life, and then Quiet Riot, of course, and then into the Aussie stuff, and his tragic accident. I was gonna say suicide. I think that's because whatever, suicide solution or whatever. I don't know. Obviously the plane crashing in there. There was a really weird conspiracy theory that he was thinking about leaving the band. So, because Ozzy and Sharon weren't paying him. So I'm not trying to cast any disparaging, vibes in any direction, but I just thought that was pretty hilarious. There'll always be another conspiracy theory, right, boys? Like, what? I don't know. That was maybe, Randy was rubbed out. Dun dun dun. I hope not. I mean, he was one of the greatest ever, but that's the second thing. Is like, let's be real here. Now I'm gonna catch some shit for this, I know. But Randy is like Eddie's little cousin. Insert comments filled with hate. Don't get me wrong. Diary of a Madman for sure is probably one of the best metal albums of the 80s. But you're talking Van Halen. That's like Fair Warning and Women and Children First. And obviously the first one. Those three right there are so monumental as far as the guitar is concerned. It just defies any categorization. And then you had the impact of Eddie just taking the whole rock and metal genre and all that stuff, just loud guitars and flashy playing, to like the stratosphere. He's playing with Michael Jackson. He's cutting tracks like Beat It. Randy didn't do that. No, he might have, but I doubt it. He was always going to be in Eddie's shadow. It was just, Eddie had that, whatever, it factor, the wow factor. Randy was technically a better guitar player as far as the music theory was concerned, as far as the classical chops was concerned. I don't think that there's a debate there, but Eddie was just more creative. And it showed that Van Halen swagger, man. It transcends all borders if you're just being real. And they pretty much have absolutely stellar music across the board. Even in the later years when you're getting into like Van Hagar and stuff, 5150 is still another absolute monster of an album with just insane guitar chops on it. Like, I'm still a fan of the older stuff, but whatever. It is what it is, So that's the thing, is there's this huge camp of people that are just absolutely full on Eddie worship, or there's the Randy camp, and then there's just more and more and more, which is fine. But aren't we shouldn't or I shouldn't say aren't, but I should say shouldn't we be making, room for new people? Like, we're just not really doing that. We're not creating an environment where people can actually compete on that, because these people have basically attained godlike status. Like, they can never be touched. You can't criticize them. That's why I was just like, saying that stuff is going to definitely annoy people if this were to get out there or whatever else. Lucky it'll be like 20 people watch it. They're like, yeah, I know. It's a fair criticism. And listen, it's my opinion, obviously, but I think it's an opinion borne out just by the sheer impact of the players. You know what I mean? Eddie is basically the embodiment of 80s guitar. Then you have second tier guys like Vi, Satriani, Randy, and a couple other ones, and then you just move down the chain one more time and you have basically all of the 80s metal guys, like from Rat and Kicks and Shotgun Messiah and the whole 9 yards, right? Like, also very, very relevant, but just more so to people that actually enjoyed that music, rather than being these larger than life sort of like musician and cultural figures. Like, Steve Vai transcends a lot of borders rather than just being a metal guy. Right, so that's what I'm talking about. Same thing with Satriani. He can show up to the Montreal Jazz Fest, and then he can go to, Vakken, and people are like, yeah, I'm down. So that's the difference there. So, I mean, it's important that we pay homage to the legends, for sure. And of course, respect and recognize the absolutely monstrous contribution they've made to the craft. But at the same time, we have to sort of temper it a bit with giving new people an opportunity. And I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying there has to be some sort of mechanism, if you will, in the music industry, or whatever you want to call that, to funnel the people that actually have a real genuine interest in music. Not the best. Not the super shredders only. I mean people that actually have a genuine music vision and they make good music. I like Michael McDonald. I was listening to the Doobie Brothers. I was listening to some of his solo material. You know what I mean? It's great. It's absolutely great. I didn't even recognize the fact that, what is it? I Keep Forgetting is the main hook from Warren G's Regulate, which is a popular song from the 90s when that whole scene was going on. Damn. Excuse me. So, there's that, but essentially, I'm not really stuck in these sort of, tightly wound communities that are just like, metal is my whole life, and then it's just like specifically 80s metal. One day it's Rat, next day it's Rush, and the day after that it's Al Di Meola, or the day after that it's Planet X. You kind of get on a little bit of a kick, and so you'll start listening to a bunch of instrumental albums. You got Di Meola, Vinnie Moore, McAlpine, Vi, Satriani, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm getting tapped out here. I've had a little fun. And so you leap off and you're just like, maybe get into some classic rock, maybe some Transatlantic or Spock's Beard or Porcupine Tree, some modern fare, or right into the old stuff, Queen or AC/DC and all that good stuff. And then you just keep jumping around. But some people don't do that. It's like we've created this weird environment where they just stay absolutely siloed in this small. And so here's the thing. The reason why that's kind of problematic is they're really resistant to new ideas. So that's not so good for perpetuating the health of a music scene. I think 80s music and all the rest of that stuff was so interesting and so diverse in a true sense. Like you listen to Split Ends and you listen to the Bangles and Bananarama, like some of these huge songs and whatnot, and you're just like, and even Split Ends morphing, if you will, to a certain degree into Crowded House. You're just like, this is crazy. You're like, how do you get from there to here, first of all? Like, it's cool music. It's weird. You know what I mean? Like, that was the thing. It was weird. You got Peter Gabriel doing his own thing, and there's a huge range in there. He's doing that stuff over in Africa and all the rest of it. That's my point is where's that diversity now? You don't see that anywhere. You have people basically jumping genres, like Beyonce claiming she's country, or Post Malone or somebody like that. And I'm just like, or Morgan Wallen pretending to be country. It's like Florida Georgia Line Part 2. And look, man, sure, I'd trade places with him in a second if I could, just to tour around for a year and just make, a huge amount of bank and enjoy the concert life and all the rest of it. It'd be a pretty cool trip. Obviously, be a lot of work, and it probably wouldn't be fun all the time. But for the most part, it'd be awesome. And I'm sure most people would be like, "Yeah, I'm jumping on that train for sure." But that's just it. You know what I mean? Let's just be real. That's not country. It may be a great show and a fun time, but it's not country music. Danny Gatton, that was the guy that actually made me be like, okay. Country. I'll take a look. Once you see him play, you're like, wow. And then you see what's his name? Johnny Hilland, another guy with the chicken picking. Like his riffage is just nuts, and that leads to Brad Paisley and Vince Gill and all these other really super high end guitar players. Just like, holy sh, right? Like, come on. So that's my point. That's why sort of being enslaved to your influences sometimes just clouds your judgment in terms of being influenced by music that you would normally be like, nah. You know what I mean? I saw the playing, and even though I was just like, it's not really my thing, there was just something so chaotic about Danny's playing that I was just like, started watching more of it. And of course, one day there was this other video, and they're like, this guy's chicken picking skills are just nuts, right? And of course it's Johnny. And I'm just like, holy smokes. And he was doing this really awesome scale using open strings configuration. And that's when I was sold. And I watched a whole bunch of videos of him teaching stuff. It's great. Like, that's just it. You know what I mean? When you sort of stay locked into just this one particular mode of thinking, you kind of block everything else out, and that can really stagnate your practice and your progress. You need new stuff, like how to play some sort of country licks that can almost instantly be converted over to like more metalish licks. You know what I mean? With a little bit of elbow grease, done. So it's a limitation based on, just sort of motivation and apathy. Let's be real. Like, you're prepared to sit there for like 15 minutes and then work on the guitar for like a couple sessions to factor in a couple of these open string scales, if you will, like G major or C major, whatever it is. Just basically taking advantage of the open string. And that's just it. Once you do that, can you make small alterations by adding a note or something, or bluesing it up, or working in the pentatonic scale, or whatever it is, chromaticism. And that right there becomes the practice session. Then all of a sudden it goes from being like this, oh, I wish I could do that, to something that you can actually use. It becomes an interesting tool in the arsenal to represent your improvisations and your solos. That's how they come up with the really cool ones. You just start messing with that basic idea, and like, what happens if I add this extra note? And then all of a sudden it just kind of stops being Johnny Hillen's idea and it starts becoming your idea. You start making little alterations here and there, like you'd take a car and basically make tweaks to the engine or whatever else. The exhaust system. Sorry, I don't do the car thing. But that leads to an important point is, I mentioned it before, pushing yourself in a physical way. I'm doing the 7K walk now. It's pretty crazy. And I'm feeling it. That's why we're doing this video right now, is because my body is sore. I've done about maybe 35K in the past 5 days, because it's about 7K the entire thing. And I'm doing it in an hour and 10. So I'm pushing the body, but then I got thinking there on one of those walks that I'm just like, I got to push myself mentally. And that means learning new things. To push yourself mentally means learning an entirely new skill. Like I'm working on the law. It's kind of like my weird pet project. Writing a book. That's a good one. Even if you have no intention of actually releasing it, doesn't matter. Just sit down and write some stuff. Write a few chapters. Can you? Can you focus, your mind enough to sort of get into that sort of, mode and then just bang it out? You'd be surprised at what you could accomplish in a year. And then just go back and start refining it. There's that movie, Finding Forrester, I think it's called, with Sean Connery, where he plays an author. And there's a scene where he's just telling the kid, just start typing, just get the creative juices flowing. And that's just it. You really got to sort of get in that mindset where you can just sit down and start writing some stuff out, create a story, or make some art, using graphic design or Illustrator, or making a video, whatever that visual medium happens to take on. And then, of course, keep upping the skill level with respect to how that art is perceived. People are like, yeah, that's pretty amateurish, or damn, right? I saw a kid make a video, I think it was from a while back, where he parodied like this Star Wars stuff. But oh my God, man, was it ever good? It was as easily on par with the stuff that they were doing with Star Wars. It was like maybe a minute and a half. And that's my point. He had like access to just an average computer and some simple tools and whatnot, and just a lot of elbow grease. And he just made something that was really cool. That's the thing. You have to sort of get the same mindset. Now, listen, if you're doing a lot of music stuff, you want to do stuff that's adjacent to music. So you're like, well, at some point in time, I might have to design a cover. So get into doing, whether it's the GIMP stuff, where you're doing graphic design like Photoshop, or you're getting into videos, you're more like, well, doing lyric videos for the songs and stuff makes a lot more sense, rather than just developing an album cover, because I'm just going to do it by song basis and try to build up a, library of information like that. And if you're going to gang them together later on, then yeah, you can absolutely sort of figure out the graphic design part too. And that's just it. Just grabbing a piece of software like that and learning how to use it. That's what I'm talking about. Continuing the learning process, because that drives you, that gives you that essential fire, if you will, to overcome apathy and procrastination and actually just get the stuff done. So later on, when you're practicing music and you're like, man, I just don't want to do this next set of arpeggios in its inversions again. I'm kind of tapped out. But you're like, I think I got another one or two in me. It's like, I think I can go down here to the next set of lights and then walk up. And then I realized the walking up part was like a huge distance. It's like a big piece of pizza, the route I take, if you will. Right? So, wow, did I ever get a shock then? I was like, whoo, okay, that's a big stretch there. Yikes. So, whoops. Anyways, we got her done. And that's the point. I was just like, hunker down. And this morning, trust me, when I rolled out of bed at like 4 o'clock or whatever it was, I was just like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm going to wimp out. And by 5 o'clock, I was dressed and out the door. And it wasn't so bad. And that's just it. You know what I mean? You push yourself physically, you push yourself with controlling your impulses, with controlling what goes in your body, with controlling, exercising a certain measure of control, I should say, over, what you put on your body and whatnot. Finding other solutions. You're still brushing your teeth with toothpaste filled with fluoride? You know what I mean? That's not a conspiracy theory, man. Okay, so I'm just like, listen, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, but you do you. The fact of the matter is after that, you got to sort of like branch out again, learn how to build an engine or a printed circuit or your guitar electronics, or possibly get into woodworking or machining stuff, or just using AutoCAD and doing standard sort of drafting and or 3D modeling. Then there's all the other stuff in there. The fact of the matter is find some other outlet and start working on that, and then find another one and start working on that. If you're reading books, diversify the books you read. So if you're reading 3 books a year, one book should be sort of like based around philosophy. Grab some Nietzsche, read it, try to read it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And if you can, you're one smart individual. And understand it. Hats off to you, right? And then do like a fun book, and then do something based around science or something like that. You know what I mean? That deals with something a little bit more sort of conscious and brings awareness to your world about some sort of issue that may be important to you. You know what I mean? Don't just read 3 fantasy novels. Break it up so you get some vegetables in there, and then you have to drink a glass of water instead of a can of Coke. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm talking about. When I go for these walks now, it's not just, get the 7K done. It's get the 7K done as quickly as humanly possible without blowing yourself out the next day so you can't walk. So that means you really got to push yourself. And it sucks because I'd rather be doing something else, to be perfectly honest with you. But I do enjoy it. It's just, when you're out there and you're like, oh yeah, walking up this hill, that's fun. Right? Come on. So that's my point is this stuff starts to carry over in so many other aspects of your life. So you have to harness that power, recognize it, and then harness it so you can hone it. You know what I mean? So you're just like immediately focus on something and just mass up the willpower just to be like, do it now and just do it. And then, of course, because you have some sort of skill set, you're like, oh yeah, I can get this done instantly. Before I built the new computer, I'll admit it's been a while since I took a look at working on computers because I bought the other one pre-built and I didn't really have to do anything. So I kind of got let off the hook. But now that I went through this entire process, despite the fact that it was incredibly frustrating and it was just miserable, I learned a huge amount of stuff about how to make my life easier next time, of course. But also with the simple reality is just what to look for in the next sort of iteration. And that's the point, is you got to basically try to find some sort of learning experience in everything that you do so that you can develop the tools necessary to develop critical solutions to help you get right to the heart of the matter and not waste time kind of going all over the place. It's just boom, right to it and just deal with it. It's good for your mental health, obviously, and you just save so much more time. It's not about being the most efficient. It's about just achieving a certain measure of efficiency where you're just like, okay, focus in on this and do that. That's a skill. That's a skill that gets developed when you basically start doing new things. You like start out on graphic design. You're like, I suck at this. So if after 10 hours of just messing around with it, if you can't actually make something that's starting to get relatively, credible, if you will, Well, you might have to investigate. Are you actually sort of like engaging in your learning process? Did you do any learning process? Watch a tutorial on how to use a piece of software you're using or whatever else it is, or how to do some basic stuff. You know how it is. RTFM, which is read the effing manual, right? And that's my thing. I used to skip over that step all the time, and now I do it religiously. So that's an important part of actually being successful. It doesn't matter if it's at music, it's just being successful at life. And no, that doesn't mean you make $1 million or you live in a huge house or have a Lamborghini or anything else like that. Believe you me, I had a pretty comfortable life. And in retrospect, now that I have way, 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 way less, I am much happier way down here at the bottom, you know, with my elbows in the dirt than I was when I was living much higher on the hog. You know what I mean? There's all these extra pressures and stuff like that that just start to accumulate and really just makes your existence miserable in a certain regard when things basically take a left turn, and they usually do. And so that's just it. It just taught me to sort of appreciate the lesser things in life. And that's just it. There's this huge amount of actual pride and accomplishment when you start to get good at something. You know, for me, it took years to mix music. And I thought almost assuredly I was never actually going to develop the skill because I was just like, starting to doubt. I was like, I don't know, man. I'm listening to that mix and it's just like absolutely punishing. And I'm not even anywhere close to that. How do you do that? And that's just it. I kind of kept my nose to the grindstone, just kept working on it over and over and over again. And ultimately what happens is that you do hit that plateau. And then you get this immense sense that you're like, okay, I can do this stuff. Number one. Number two is you're like, I kick some serious ass. Rar. And three is now all of a sudden you've acquired this new skill, which is immediately beneficial to you in some capacity or another, because you might be able to be like, oh yeah, I don't know, my friend wants to develop a logo. Oh, I know how to do graphic design. Oh, okay, great. Here's $300. Mint. Go home, work on it for 25 minutes. Yeah, like, yeah, I love it. There you go, done. Right? Do a business card. Make a flyer. And so on and so forth, right? For me, I was learning the law because I was like, I'm never getting victimized by the law again. And then it kind of spread out from there. And I was like, write a book. I'm like, this is kind of interesting. That helped in other ways. Everything I do basically leads towards something else. Develop some aspect of my mind. And you should be trying to, set your life up in the same way, because I think you'll find the same level of satisfaction follows. And really, that's what you're talking about. Living a virtuous and righteous life, pursuing actual, intellectualism on a wide plane with math and science and music and language and philosophy, religion, if you want. And you should be studying certain aspects of religion, even if you're not religious, just the basic theology and the sort of deep inner whatever revelations about the human condition that they basically developed. It's all key. And why would you pass up an opportunity to put this information to use in your own life if it gives you peace of mind? Because we essentially live in crazy times, right? And that's really what this is about. How do you stay creative when you can't stay focused long enough because you're worrying about every other situation, right? At some point in time, you have to find some moment of zen where you can just unplug, or else you just burn yourself out. And a lot of times playing music can be the perfect opportunity to do that. But of course, you got to keep the learning arc going so that you keep getting better at music, so you stay interested rather than just pick up the guitar and be like, I don't want to just strum some open chords today. I'm not interested. Instead, it becomes, an ever-building sort of cathedral of information and knowledge and wisdom that you can draw from to sit down and just create music. and amuse yourself like you would read a book or something else. It's just another activity. You don't have to be Eric Johnson or whatever it is, but at the same time, you're always striving for excellence. It'll take you as far as you're going to go. So always be learning, and then always be pushing the envelope. Don't just learn one or two new things. Once you start to get pretty good at that stuff, start incorporating new influences, and then push the envelope there too. And then be more sort of judicious with your time and be like, listen, it's not the thing I really want to do right now, but it's the thing I'm going to do right now. And then, of course, it'll pay off in dividends way down the line. Honestly, that's some of the best advice I could ever give any human being, because I've made a huge amount of mistakes in my life and it's really set me back. And if I'd set myself up like that to sort of understand things and basically prioritize, I wouldn't have suffered half the amount of humiliation that I went through. So I hope you benefit from that little piece of information. Always be pushing the envelope and always be acquiring new knowledge in a whole bunch of different areas that are going to be absolutely important to your life. Knowing the law in the modern world is what'll set you free. That's just facts, and protect you. So just saying. So I hope this video helps. I appreciate every single one of you. I wish you all the best on the weekend. We'll be getting back into the music stuff in music math as applied to writing a tune. Yeah, of course we are. I'll see you guys in the next one.